Paris, strangers do not talk to you, okay? That is not something that happens. Hello! I have got a story time for you guys today. This is the story of how I met a French boy in Paris. And I wanted to tell this story for a long time, ever since it happened over the summer. But I'm glad I held back because there's been a recent development, a very unexpected and recent development to the story. Yeah. Before I get into it, I wanted to say that this is a really interesting story from the perspective of a solo female traveler, because I'm a female, I identify as female, I love to travel, and I often find myself traveling by myself. And so because that's my normal state of being, I don't think about that. That's not an identity that I'm really walking around with, except that I am because other people are constantly reminding me of that status and that identity. So it's super interesting from that perspective because this kind of interaction that I have reminds me I'm a female, I'm alone, I'm vulnerable, but I'm also strong and I'm also capable of directing the course and flow of things around me. So anyways, let's get into it. So to start the story and set the stage for what I was doing at the time, I was newly arrived in Paris. I had been there for about 2 weeks and was readjusting. I was getting used to being in the city again. I hadn't been there for 3 years and it was all coming at me fast. I hadn't been around so many people in a long time, talking in French 24/7, and as I mentioned, being alone, being a woman, I was feeling a bit vulnerable. I was feeling a little bit out of my element. I didn't instantly jump back to like the urban dweller Sarah identity. I was like feeling a little out of my element. And so 2 weeks in, I was still feeling that way. And one night I was out taking photos. I had my film cameras and it was a beautiful evening. And I was walking through the streets and just having a great time. And I was alone and the streets were pretty empty. I was like really alone. And I came across this beautiful street. By the way, it was golden hour. So the sun was, it was a photographer's dream. And I was having an amazing time. I was in my own little sphere. And also because it was spring in Paris, during these months, the sun is out for so much longer. Golden hour actually lasts for an hour because of the higher latitude of France. So it was a dream. And I came upon this street and thought I was totally alone. I was immersed in taking photos and suddenly I hear a voice. And I turn around and I'm confused. And I want to set this cultural difference so that you understand why I was so confused. In France, or at least in Paris, strangers do not talk to you, okay? That is not something that happens. All right, in America, if you're an American watching this, you'll be like, what are you talking about? Like, you can start conversations with strangers. Like, yeah, in the United States, totally normal, totally routine to start a casual conversation with someone, give someone a compliment in public, you know, we're just such nice, interactive people. Parisians? That is not the cultural norm. And so I was very confused to hear someone call out to me. And my initial reaction was, oh my gosh, did I do something wrong? So I turn around and there's this guy. And I'm trying to place how old he is because his hair's a little bit longer. He's about my height. I can't really read the age on his face. It's also, we're standing at a distance. So I go up to him and I'm like, oh, were you talking to me? And he's like, yeah, like I wanted to know if you wanted to take pictures inside the courtyard. Because this building has this gate in front, you know, it's a private residence, and he wanted to know if I wanted to take a look inside and take photos, which I thought was really sweet, and I was taken aback, but I was also very confused because why is a Parisian talking to me right now? Like, my brain in the moment can't get over this, and as I said, I'm feeling kind of vulnerable. I'm feeling kind of like I've got to be careful. I just am not in my element, you know, so I'm sort of taken aback. But I say, okay, why not? Like, it'll just take a minute, we'll slip in, I'll take photos, and then go on my way. So he opens the gate, we go inside, it's beautiful. Now that we're standing closer together, I can see that he's around my age, but I'm still confused because, as I mentioned, this is a beautiful building. Beautiful, old, in a very nice part of Paris. My initial reaction is, you have got to have money to live here. And so I'm doubly confused. Like, one, this boy is talking to me, why? And then two, how is someone my age, mid-20s, living here? I'm trying to work all of this out in my brain as we're talking. He's asking me about where I'm from, what am I doing in Paris? You know, he's seen so many Americans in Paris these days, and he's just really, he wants to know kind of what is the fascination with his country and with Paris. And so I'm agreeing, yeah, there's a lot of tourists this time of year. It's kind of crazy. And I'm sharing a little bit of my backstory, what has brought me back to France. I used to live here, you know, so I'm sharing that. And it's getting to that point where I'm ready to leave. And so while it was really nice of him to share this experience with me, I'm ready to move on. I kind of am liking being alone, right? Like, I'm enjoying my solitude, I'm enjoying my independence, being back in Paris, and just kind of having that experience solo. So I bid him adieu. He doesn't ask me for my phone number, he doesn't even like make a mention or take out his phone or anything. He kind of reads the situation, I guess, and is like, okay, she's gonna go, I'm gonna go. I thank him for sharing, you know, where he lives with me, and I continue on my way. I leave and I continue to take photos, and I'm still processing the interaction in my head because it doesn't make any sense to me. I go on with my night, and a few days later, I get a message from this boy. Now keep in mind, we hadn't exchanged phone numbers. I didn't think that I had shared any real personal details with him, you know, my first name, where I was from. But I had shared a third thing, which was my previous career. And I don't even remember how that came up in conversation, but I remember that it did. And because of that key piece of information, he found me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn. Okay, my LinkedIn. The most sexy of the apps. And there's a message in my LinkedIn inbox from this guy. And I just don't know what to do. I'm like, okay, so I open the message, and it says, like, Sarah, I don't normally, he writes it in English, by the way. I don't normally do this, dash, send a message to someone on LinkedIn who I met, dash, like, he specifies, I don't normally do this, aka send messages to strangers on LinkedIn, but after seeing you the other day, and I forget what he said. It's something like, after seeing you and your beaming smile the other day, I had to send you this message to see if you wanted to continue our conversation from the other day and meet over, I think he said like a glass or something, like pour un coup, you know, like, I'm just not even, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised about the LinkedIn. That's a new one. So now, after hearing this whole story, and obviously I'm freaked out, should I meet up with him? So after hearing all of that, what do I do, guys? Like, what do I do?
Are you a vlogger?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but that's cool.
Yeah, you have a camera too.
Yeah, film though.
I have a film camera too, but
Really? Do
yeah,
you have a YouTube channel or something?
I'm trying to make one.
Can I subscribe?
Sure.